Stand up to rescue them. For their fall is the collapse of an entire nation, and rescuing one is the deliverance of the entire nation. إِذَا رَأَيْتُمْ أَخَلَّكُمْ زَلَّ زَلَّةً فَسَدِّدُوهُ وَوَثِّقُوهُ وَلَا تَكُونُوا أَعْوَانًا لِلشَّيْطَانِ عَلَيْهِ. That when you find one of your very own brethren down in the dumps, when you see that their back is against the wall and the world is caving into them, stand up to rescue them. For their fall is the collapse of an entire nation, and perhaps rescuing only one of them is the deliverance of the entire nation. Was it not the Arabic poet who said so beautifully, صَبْرُكَ فِي مُصِيبَةِ خَيْرٌ مِّن جَزْعِكَ وَجَزْعُكَ فِي مُصِيبَةِ أَخِيكَ خَيْرٌ مِّن صَبْرِكَ. It is better for you to persevere over your own pain and agony than for you to moan and groan. And it is better for you to moan and groan over the pain and agony of others than for you to turn a blind eye and a deaf ear. If this becomes the foresight of not just the Muslims, but by extension humanity, that I could persevere over my own pain and agony, but it hurts me and it bothers me to see someone else going through a crisis, then this perception alone will bring about an immediate change within the community and societies we have chosen to live in. But tragically today, over the most basic tribulations and afflictions, we want to make an abundant amount of noise. Why? Because my rights have been infringed upon. My rights have been violated. Let's call CARE and this task force and that task force. But how about the rights of others that are being violated on a daily basis across the globe? We are dead silent. So all of those who are suffering in one capacity or the other, domestically or internationally, ask yourself, have I ever lost sleep? Has the taste in my food no longer satisfying me because of the crisis? Ali bin Abi Talib radiallahu anhu was once asked, what is the definition of a true brother in faith? What is the definition of a fellow citizen? He said powerful words as a response. إِنَّ أَخَاقَ الْحَقَّ مَنْ كَانَ مَعَكَ وَمَنْ يَدُرُّ نَفْسَهُ لِيَنْفَعَكَ وَمَنْ إِذَا رَيْبُ الزَّمَانٍ صَدَّعَكَ شَتَّتَ فِيهِ شَمْلَهُ لِيَجْمَعَكَ. He says a true brethren of yours is one who will stand by your side through good and bad, through thick and thin. They will sacrifice their own comfort for your safety, security, and prosperity. وَمَنْ إِذَا رَيْبُ الزَّمَانٍ صَدَّعَكَ. And when the hopes of life are fragmented into pieces, شَتَّتَ فِيهِ شَمْلَهُ لِيَجْمَعَكَ. Collectively, they will march to the ends of the world only to see you once again stand on your 2 feet with confidence. Could you and I honestly say, as we sit here this afternoon, my brother and sister, that this definition of true brotherhood defines mine and your reaction towards the crisis that we are hearing and seeing across the globe? Or are we oblivious to what is happening because we are grossly engaged in living our lives of comfort, want, and desire, which has directly resulted to millions being deprived of their basic needs? I'm in the process of moving, and as I'm packing the boxes with my family, I decide that some of this stuff will go into storage. And when I go to a storage unit, one is too small, the second is too small, the third is too small, and I ended up renting the one that is just smaller than the largest one they offer. And then I thought about all of those who are deprived and don't have basic necessities, and yet I'm renting a storage unit. I should be ashamed of myself. We possess things that we don't even need. We possess things that we shall never even use. One of the crises that has gripped the world today, a crisis that the United Nations has referred to as a Holocaust, a crisis that the United Nations has referred to as the largest crisis, a refugee crisis since the history of mankind. Since the history of mankind. Where over 1 million Rohingyans were forced to flee and leave their homes to seek refuge in the jungles of neighboring Bangladesh after having traveled 250 kilometers of a crocodile-infested river, days through the jungle on the Rohingya Myanmar side, only to enter and be housed in another jungle. A jungle that used to be a home of wild animals like cheetahs, lions, tigers, and wild elephants. There was a lot of noise yesterday about the Rohingya crisis, but today it's quiet because we Muslims are emotional people. When a child shows up on the shore all dead, then we start to shed tears. But 3 days later, we go about our entire life standing online for the latest iPhone. This is the crisis that I want us to reflect upon for a moment. 1 million between August of last year and October, and it continued until the end of the year. An entire community has been wiped out, their homes bulldozed. Personally, I have been to these camps and lived there for numerous weeks at a time. I've been there 5 times. And you know, I have this image, some of you can see it, others may not be able to. You can take a flyer, you can see it on the billboards that we have outside, on the binders that we have outside. This is an image of a young girl, Ruqayya, 13 years old. What crime did she commit? She watched her mother be raped, gang raped, and her mother died during that gang rape. And she herself was raped by the same people. When I saw her last year, she was pregnant. When I saw her the 3rd time, she was showing. And just recently I was in Bangladesh and I met with her. Someone had given me money and said, you know, give it personally to someone who you think that needed the most. And someone advised me, give it to these young girls who were impregnated against their will. She was carrying twins. And we gave her some money and we sat with her and we talked to her. Just imagine, brothers and sisters, the crisis that she's going through as an individual. No father was burnt alive, brothers were driven over by bulldozers. Mother was raped and died during that rape. She herself was raped by the same people. Her name, Ruqayya. When I was leaving, there were several dead bodies. And I asked in regards to who they were. And one of them was this young girl. She died during childbirth. Because there's no amenities. The camp was so far from the United Nations clinic that in order for them to get there, it will take a 4-hour walk through the jungles, up and down the hilltops, on the outskirts of Cox's Bazar, on the outskirts of Tikknif, which itself is one of the poorest places in Bangladesh. Her water broke, there was no one to assist her, and she died during childbirth. The fetus half in and half out. And this is one story. Here's another image of a young boy, Muhammad Atif. He's holding, you know, some aid that he got from a camp, a dispensary camp that we set up. And I asked him his story because he was alone. He said to me that I am the sole guardian of 2 young siblings. He's only 7 years old. He managed to escape with the masses and jump on a boat, and now he's the sole guardian. And it reminded me of a story that I want to share with you to put it into context. Bashir bin Aqraba was about 9 years old when he moved to Medina with his young sisters and his father for prosperity and a better life. A call for an expedition was heard, and the father joined the ranks of this expedition, and they went on this journey. As it was the custom back then, Muslims would go on the outskirts of Medina in hopes of receiving their loved ones back home. So Bashir, young, 9 years of age, joins his new neighbors, strangers to him almost, and he goes to the outskirts of Medina and he climbs a big high rock. And he's looking for his father right and left, and there's no sight of him. And it's about to get dark, and he comes to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he nudges his knee like this, and he says, Ya Rasulullah, I know you are occupied and busy, but I'm looking for my father and I can't seem to allocate him anywhere. ماذا فعل أبي? Where is my daddy? And this moment was too painful for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So gently, modestly, he turns away and ignores the young boy. Bashir, being a child, goes and climbs that rock, and now he's looking right and left, and soon there is absolutely no light. The sun has disappeared, the moon has come, and he realizes that everyone has returned. And in those moments, deep down, he understands that while previously he had become orphaned by a mother, he had also now lost his father. And he comes to the Prophet of Allah. With tears trickling down his cheeks and a crack in his voice, he says, ماذا فعل أبي يا رسول الله? Where is my daddy, O Messenger of God? فاستكبر وبكى. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam falls on his knees and he begins to cry profusely. And Bashir says, in that moment I realized that I had now lost my father, and at the age of 9 I had become the single guardian to my young siblings. And he says, I began to cry with no hope left in me. Suddenly I felt the warm hug of the Prophet engulfing me, and he whispered in my ears profound words that gave me motivation and inspiration for the rest of my life. What were these words? أما ترضى يا بشير أن يكون رسول الله أباك وعائشة أمك? O little Bashir, would you not want and desire from these very moment onwards, I, the Prophet of God, stand in the shoes of your father, and my wife Aisha stands in the shoes of your mother? أما ترضى يا بشير أن يكون رسول الله أباك وعائشة أمك? Would you not want I, the Prophet of God, to stand in the shoes of your father, and my wife to stand in the shoes of your mother? Brothers and sisters, I share this with you because in one capacity or the other, there are many Bashirs lingering around, especially among the Rohingya Muslim community. Most of them are women and children. Identify someone who's going through a crisis and tap their life in a positive way. Provide them a helping hand. Give them a shoulder to lean on. Allama Abdul Sattar Eidi rahmatullah alayh, who was from Karachi, he said, आज हम सब अक्लमंद तो बन गए लेकिन अब तक हम इंसान नहीं बने. आज हम सब अक्लमंद तो बन गए लेकिन अब तक हम इंसान नहीं बने. We may have very well become intellectual, carrying plenty of degrees under our belt, but when are we going to become humans? The English proverb said, there is no doubt that we are human beings, but the question that needs to be asked, when are we going to start being human? There is no doubt that we are human beings, but when are we going to start being human? Our purpose in this world is to be there for someone, so someone can be there for us. Brothers and sisters, I've taken much of your time. I want to end this first part of the khutbah. In the second part, I want to share with you a quick story to demonstrate the power of giving. And we will end at that. I have had the fortunate opportunity to visit the Rohingya refugees in Bangladesh. I don't want to bore you, but go on beamercy.com, see the videos, see the live interviews, and go on our Facebook page, and it's updated as frequently as we could to inform you in terms of what we are doing for them. There are Muslims across the globe that are there for Palestinian causes, Syrian causes, local causes. But very rare are we seeing people there for the Rohingya causes. In fact, there are only 3 organizations that have permission to work. All of the major organizations that you are thinking of, I'm not going to mention any names, they don't have permission to work in Bangladesh. They don't have permission. They might have gone there, made a couple of videos and come back, but they do not have permission to operate. One of the 3 organizations is Be a Mercy Foundation. And every penny you donate goes to the cause itself. And there's no overhead expenses because this organization is a sister organization of Islamic chaplaincy. It started with Muslim chaplains and non-Muslim chaplains across the United States. And they make money and cover their salaries and expenses through government, state, federal funding, and local counties that are organized by freeholders. That money is enough for salaries and all overhead expenses, and the extra money that is made from that also covers additional costs like building a school for Syrian refugees in Greece, and working locally in this country in places like Newark and Camden being the second most poorest place in this country and the 30th most poorest place in the world, in New Jersey. Try to go there and have a look for yourself. We are a developing organization. We're not a relief entity. We go there when people have left. We build schools, we build masjids, we build other educational structures. We have over 500 orphans under our care that don't have any parents or anyone to turn to. We've built schools. We're presently building a high school there. You can check all of this out by taking a flyer, going on the website and seeing for yourself. Seeing is believing. I ask of you, a humble appeal to all of you, is before you leave today, I'm gracious to the board and to have given me this opportunity. Brothers, please come forward, give something, give anything. Abu Laytham al-Qandi rahmatullah alayhi said, وَلَوْ لَمْ يَكُنْ فِي الصَّدَقَةِ فَضِيلَةً سِوَى دُعَاءَ الْمَسَاكِينَ لَكَانَ الْوَاجِبِ. That if there was no virtue or reward for dispensing charity other than the dua of the masakin, the poor, that would have been enough for it to become incumbent upon you, because in this world, there is nothing more powerful for you than the dua of the masakin. Come to their aid today and you will see how Allah will come to your aid. Take a flyer. We are also doing an Udhiyah drive. The details are on the flyer. Donate today, send a check in the mail, go online, or simply, inshallah, do something which is better than nothing. Barakallahu lana wa lakum fil Qur'an al-azim wa nafa'na وإياكم بالآيات والذكر الحكيم. استغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. Brothers and sisters, very quickly, let's tie this message together. There's an amazing story, and I won't go into the details of the story. It's pertaining to Salama and her husband. Before she married the Prophet, she was married to someone else, and she became Muslim, and along with her husband, they were among the first 10 to become Muslim. Unfortunately for them, just like the Rohingyas are encountering, the Quraysh were up in arms, gun blazing, subjecting the believers to the greatest scrutiny. She decided to move to Abyssinia for a better life, just like many of us have moved here to this great nation of ours, the United States of America. They go to Abyssinia. تتابعت الأخبار على المهاجرين إلى الأرض الحبشة بأن المسلمين في مكة قد كثر عددهم. They hear news that the situation has become far more better in Mecca, and the hostility has reduced. So without even settling in for the night and residing at a motel of some sort, they jump on a camelback, ride through the harsh desert, through a long journey, arriving in Mecca, only to identify that what they had heard was fake news. So now for 7 to 8 years, they will go through hostility day and night. And now another opportunity for prosperity opened up, this time to Medina. They're on their way to Medina. And she claims that now I had an extension. I had a baby boy, a newborn. And as they were going to Medina, they were ambushed by their own family who had a quarrel and a dispute. And they prevented her from leaving. And her husband's family snatched her son out of her hand and dislocated the arm. And the baby's crying and she's yelling and screaming, and her family starts to pounce on her husband. Blood is flying right and left, and he manages to escape and leaves to Medina for the prosperity of his life and faith. She's in house arrest. The child is at her in-laws. Imagine the pain she's going through. After a year, long story short, she manages to seek their permission to leave. Reunited with her child, on the way to Medina, she gets stuck in a sandstorm. There was no weather.com back then, and hence she's seeing death right in her face. Her visas ran away, her food is missing or run out, and she has her child in her hand, and she sees a severe sandstorm right before her. Luckily for her, there was a non-Muslim. Just like Tish James is here today and stood on the side of the Muslim community for years, in hopes of getting them holiday for Eid, and she succeeded and is running for Attorney General for New York State, and she'll speak to you in a moment. Just like her, Uthman ibn Talha, a non-Muslim, saw Salama and said, "My sister, what is wrong with you? Didn't you understand that there's a severe weather, and why are you traveling to Medina? You'll never make it." She says, "I have a long, depressing story. If you want to help me, fine, otherwise off you go." He says, no, 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 no. Sit on my camel. He helps her, he assists her. At 700 miles through the harsh desert, they arrive in Medina. He says, Zawjiki fi hadihi al-qarya. I've asked around, your husband seems to be among these people over here. Good luck to you, and off he goes. He doesn't ask for a thank you, an acknowledgement, a glass of water. He goes back to Mecca. This is where the story begins and ends. Fast forward. At Fath Mecca, the Prophet arrives at the Kaaba. And Uthman ibn Talha was in charge of the Kaaba. He was the gatekeeper. He locks the door and he runs on top of the Kaaba. Ali is summoned to get the keys so that the Kaaba could be opened and the Prophet can make turakah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Ali goes up and he says, give me the keys. He says, no, I don't believe in Islam. I don't believe Muhammad is a prophet. Get lost, get out of here. If I believed he was a prophet, I would have left the door open. There's a hustle and a tussle. Ali snatches the key from his neck. He had it on a necklace, and he comes down, he unlocks the Kaaba. The Prophet makes 2 rakah salah, and Jibreel comes for the first and last time in the Kaaba to reveal one ayah. Inna Allah ya'murukum an tu'addu al-amanati ila ahliha. O Muhammad, we summon you immediately to give those keys of the Kaaba to its rightful owners and those who are in charge of it, the non-Muslim. Return those keys. Give it back to them immediately. And those keys will remain in his family until the end of times. Why? Because Uthman came to the aid of Salama when she was stranded and in need. Today Allah is saying, Inna la nudhi'u ajra man ahsana amala, that he will never forget the good deed of any individual irrespective of their faith or affiliation or geographical location. And Allah is going to reward him such that this honor will remain with him. And then when he dies, until his entire family and brothers and sisters, till this day, that fakir remains with that family. And Ali goes back and he returns the key and he says, you know, قَدْ أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ فِيكَ قُرْآنَ. Allah revealed the Quran because of your good deed. You came to the aid of someone. And he says, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, and becomes a Muslim there and then. He says, if this is your God, then I want to be one who believes in this God. Brothers and sisters, this story demonstrates how Allah came to the aid of a non-Muslim who stood by a Muslim who was in need. How about you and me when we come to the aid and the assistance of our Rohingyan Muslim brothers and sisters who are going through an immense crisis, a crisis known as the Holocaust by the United Nations? Horrendous circumstances. Help us, brothers and sisters, to provide aid and assistance to them. I end with one last thing. The majority of mankind will not do great things, but nothing prevents us this afternoon in doing simple things in a great way. So please, take a flyer, take a pledge form, give something today. If you send the checks, write your email in the memo so we can send the receipt to you. If you fill out a pledge form, do not fill out the bank section. We are no longer taking donations through the bank, but you can provide us with your credit card details with all the information, name, address that your credit card is affiliated with, your email address, so we can keep you informed of what's going on with your donations. 100% zakah eligible. That means any form of donation, including zakah, can be given with 0% overhead. Visit the website, take a pledge form. Allahumma ighfir dhunubana, wastur uyubana, washrah sudurana, wahfadh qulubana, ونور قلوبنا ويسر أمورنا وحسن مرادنا وتمم تقصيرنا. اللهم نجنا مما نخاف يا حفي الألطاف. أقم الصلاة. Stand up and straighten yourselves in your rows.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Hayya ala salati, hayya ala falah. Qad qamatis salah, qad qamatis salah. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. La ilaha illallah. الله.
استووا استقيموا تراصوا اعتدلوا سووا صفوفكم يرحمني ويرحمكم الله. दाएं बाएं देख लीजिए, सफों को सीधे मुकम्मल करें. बेख्वाह खौ गुरेख बलजांग सफूना के समकई. Shaf shuja karon, straighten yourselves in your rows. Kindly silence your electronic devices. Allahu Akbar. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. ليس البر أن تولوا وجوهكم قبل المشرق والمغرب ولكن البر من آمن بالله واليوم الآخر والملائكة والكتاب والنبيين وآتى المال على حبه ذوي القربى واليتامى والمساكين وابن السبيل والسائلين وفي الرقاب وأقام الصلاة وآتى الزكاة والموفون بعهدهم إذا عاهدوا والصابرين في البأساء والضراء وحين البأس أولئك الذين صدقوا وأولئك هم المتقون. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. Brothers and sisters, there's a few very important announcements today. I'll make the first of them, and that is the table for Be a Mercy Foundation for you to donate your udhiyah or to sponsor an orphan or